I'm going to keep my legs crossed this time. I
Oh, you
have
are?
this really bad habit of like doing this
Oh,
on
yeah.
podcasts. I can't keep
You
doing
look
it.
like a man
I'm
spreader
a
so
lady.
bad.
I'm a nice, polite
Yeah.
lady.
And I have I have the blanket like I'm FDR
I
in his seventh term. Is that many terms he had? I was saying before we started, this is the world famous Liam Nelson's Disabled People podcast.
welcome to For Those Who Get It, a podcast not just about disabled people, but for disabled people. I'm your host, Liam Nelson. Today, I have the amazing Jaime Shriner with me.
Hi,
Chicago
everybody.
comedian extraordinaire, musical comic in particular.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Liam. I love anytime I get to interact with Liam Nelson. It gives me such joy as a 5'9" woman.
Yeah.
I feel so small and tiny when
And that's
I'm
what
around
I do this.
Liam.
I do it as a public service.
It
you know?
really
Every time I
is.
step out of the house, I'm like, and this is for you, tall ladies who feel bad about being tall. This is for you.
I don't necessarily. The thing is, like, I used to feel really bad about it because I got to the height that I am now when I was like 12.
Yeah.
Like,
same.
I just grew really fast, and then I didn't grow anymore. But like,
You've had a lot of time to process.
I've had a lot of time to process
Yeah.
being tall, and I like being tall. But it is like there's something fun about being like, oh my gosh, I'm so tiny next to somebody who's like
Yeah.
7 feet tall.
Yeah.
They'll do that. They'll do that to
Hell
you.
yeah. And this isn't just a podcast about being tall. This is also a podcast about being disabled. So Jamie, if you were to describe if a doctor were to describe what you have,
Yes.
what would that be?
Okay, so I was diagnosed with 90% hearing loss in both my left and my right ear. And people often ask me, they're like, which one's worse? They're equally bad, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And what that
No
means,
favorites.
what that means, 90% loss means that essentially like I've lost my higher decibels of hearing. And what higher decibels of hearing constitute are front of the mouth fricatives, so consonants. So I don't hear consonants without my hearing aids in. And with my hearing aids in, I hear consonants like just okay.
Okay.
So I do a lot of lip reading. I'm currently learning ASL.
Yeah.
Simply because it's very hard for me to communicate with people, especially like anybody with an accent, anybody who has been drinking, people talking to me from behind me. Like if I can't really see your face, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know what's going on.
You got to buy a lot of vowels.
Yes.
That's so interesting. The like circumstances you brought up in particular, because I imagine
Mm-hmm.
as a comic that is particularly tough.
Yeah.
Because you'd drunk people with accents. Oh,
Yeah.
just the entire crowd of every
Yeah.
in like national
Not
comedy club.
really, not really a crowd with comic. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that. What I also think it's a thing too of like, and this is interesting because like I was describing this to a friend because like hard of hearing, like deafness is a spectrum, right? So
Yeah.
it's like hard of hearing and fully deaf or like born deaf, like deaf from birth, are different experiences.
Yeah.
If I tell people that I'm hard of hearing, so many people go, "Oh, me too. I've been to so many concerts," and I'm like, "You dumb
the same.
motherfucker. That's not what I'm talking about. Like I actually, like literally, I wear hearing aids. I can't fucking hear."
Yeah.
But when I tell people that I'm deaf, I'll have somebody be like, "Hi, how are you? You did a." So it's like, I don't think people fully like
They
see it.
overcorrect.
They overcorrect.
Yeah.
They see it so black and white, and it's like it is really it's more nuanced than that.
I get that for sure because like with Marfan syndrome, it's definitely a spectrum. I have friends who have been in like wheelchairs for years. I have friends who were like I know kids who like went blind in one eye by the time they were like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
and
damn.
that's so much more intense of an experience. But we still have the same genetic disorder, and it still manifests in like similar ways. So I do need the accommodations to an extent, but I don't want you to go crazy and assume that I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and-
let me make sure I'm looking at you more while we're talking too.
You know,
'cause
and I'm also trying to like navigate, like looking
Yeah.
at you, looking at the camera, like where am I supposed to look?
we
But
can just talk too.
We'll just talk, okay.
Part of this podcast is me kind of making it. I'm you right now talking
Mm-hmm.
to Jamie, and like I'm learning how best to accommodate a conversation with Jamie, and you can do that more easily in the future if you have this as
Oh,
like a
yes.
pretext.
Yeah, and I think it's a thing too where it's like I would say, and anybody who is watching this who is also hard of hearing and potentially from the Midwest, I wonder if people can relate. I feel like I'm constantly navigating because I did get my diagnosis later in life. Like I found out when I was 24. I'm 33 now. But when they diagnosed me, they think I've probably been hard of hearing since I was at least 12.
Wow.
Which makes sense because I failed a hearing test in the 7th grade. I did. And my mom and dad didn't take me for a follow-up because they thought that I was just being dramatic. Like they were like, oh, she's, like she's, but it's like, yeah,
Not
no,
my baby. She couldn't be messed up.
yeah, no, but it's like literally I'm hard to hear. And so, but I feel like I really have this like hard won Midwestern work ethic and this Midwestern inability to ask for or accept help. So I'm really, really bad at like accepting accommodations or like asking for them. And even like the perfect example I could give is like I've been taking ASL classes and they'll be part of the class where they have us practice conversational ASL. And there was a moment where my teacher and the other student in the class were conversing with each other. And I was just kind of just like watching, and I had missed a part of the conversation, what it meant. And my teacher stopped. He said, Jamie, do you know what's going on? And I said, well, no, I missed that part, but I was waiting until the end because I figured I'd figure it out. And he was like, no, you're like, literally, you're using the same bad habits as you use like as a hard of hearing person.
Yeah.
In this context, when it's like, you need to ask people to repeat, even in the context of like ASL. I get that you could probably figure it out and know what's going on, but like, I want you, when you don't understand something, to say that you don't understand it. And I think it's like, I've gotten so used to like, when I do ask people to repeat themselves, they just talk louder and not clearer.
Yeah, just condescendingly.
Yeah, and so louder. I try to just figure stuff out instead of asking for.
That's
repeat.
Interesting. How you can like, so you, instead of demanding them to accommodate you accommodate them by almost operating on less information than everyone else.
Yeah.
So you're just like you're like in the back with the fucking board with the string all across. Like, all right, so we started out, there were these three words, and then we eventually got here. How did we get here?
And I have so many stories of experiences like that, like both before getting my hearing aids and after. And I think it makes me sad because it's like, I think sometimes people will chalk it up to like, oh, Jamie's so silly or Jamie's so aloof. It's like, no, I'm trying to make your life easier, because if I ask you to repeat, you're not actually going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do the detective work to figure out the part that I missed.
Yeah. It's like, hey, can you repeat yourself, but not in a way that's going to make me want to hit you?
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like that's people, when I have a few like, in the context of scripts and in jokes, stories like of this, but the one that comes to mind most frequently is several years ago, like probably 8 years ago when I first moved to Chicago, my friend was working for Lululemon and got me an interview for Lululemon. But the thing with Lululemon, anybody who's watching and knows, they do group interviews for the first interview. And I showed up to the group interview, forgot my hearing aids, and there were 2 group interviews happening simultaneously. And so I was like, okay, I got this. I'll figure it out. I'm going to sit right next to the interviewer, because then I can't possibly miss what she's saying. But she had one of those, like, this kind of, like the yogi voices.
Yeah,
like
the like Pilates instructor.
The vocal fry Pilates instructor voice.
Yeah.
And so I was like, she asks the first question, and I have nothing to go on as far as what she's asked, because I'm up first.
Right.
And so I said, can you repeat yourself?
Because you sat next to her.
Yeah, and she repeats herself. I still don't know what she said. I asked her a third time. I still don't know what she said. So I was like going on and thinking about how like I'm a hard worker and I'm like good on a team. And then it gets to the next person. They're like, yeah, my favorite Lululemon product right now is. I was like, just immediately bombed this interview. And then it got back to, like, it went back around the whole circle. So I'm sitting there the whole circle, figuring out how am I going to address this. So it comes back to me, and I was like, I just wanted to say I am hard of hearing, and I forgot to wear my hearing aids today. And for this next, I was like, I'm going to answer the first question again, and then, you've bombed an interview when the interviewer, as you're leaving, says, hey, good luck out there.
She's like, yeah, try that shit anywhere else. Oh, man. So, I mean, it was kind of like, you were playing a game of telephone with yourself. You just needed someone else to say it, and then it got back around to you eventually.
And it's like, and it's one of those things where it's like, I was like, oh, let me try to like accommodate the way that I think that they're going to approach my disability by sitting closer.
Yeah.
And if anything, it set me up for more failure.
Sabotaged
because I didn't get to hear other people answer the question. Because if I would have heard other people answer the question, I probably could have figured out what the question was by the time it got to me. But because I was up first, and I had no idea what the question was, and I had no context, and she's repeating it, and it's like I said, she's repeating in the way that we've described, where she's not actually getting clearer with the consonants. It's just more condescending and more irritated that I'm asking her to repeat. She just
opens her mouth wider.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I know less
I'm
of what you're
talking to you. Like, I can imagine that's so frustrating.
Oh, yeah. And it's something that's like, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I really do try when I'm interacting with somebody who is not a native English speaker and like, you know, their primary language is something else, I don't just like, let me say English again. It's like, no, they don't fucking understand English. Like,
Yeah.
why are, like, that's not helping. So
Yeah.
it's like, as soon as I realize I'm talking to somebody who doesn't understand what I'm saying, I immediately am like, oh, let me go to Google Translator. Like, you know, I try to accommodate them, but I think I need to in the future try to do the reverse of where I ask people to accommodate me
Yeah.
and like try not to take it personally if they repeat themselves in a really shitty way.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's so interesting how you like going back to the thing where you said in ASL too that you use that same kind of coping strategy.
Yeah.
It's like a foreign. I imagine if you like learned a foreign language would be the same way. Like it's cool that that's developed an empathy for a totally kind of different group of people who don't share your exact experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, but it is like, I think it's, yeah, it's just a thing where it's like, I would just ask everybody listening to this, you know, people with disabilities and people without disabilities alike, if somebody's asking you to repeat yourself, like, I understand that it can be frustrating or it can make you, like, maybe you, because the other thing I love too is if somebody says something shitty or snarky to me
Yeah.
and I didn't hear it, they never want to repeat it. And I'm like, no, but like, I'm not, because a lot of times it'll be like, say that again from a place of like,
Yeah.
really, and
Say it
I'm
with
like,
your
no,
chest.
I actually didn't hear what you said. So
Yeah.
it's like,
So, no, I want to be included in the gossip. Like,
yeah,
please say it again.
yeah. If you're gonna say something shitty, be willing to say it again. But no,
Yeah.
that aside, it's like, I think that as far as like clear communication, even if the person you're talking to doesn't have a disability like I do, like, you know, you should be willing to say stuff with your chest and repeat it if it wasn't heard or understood, or like, it's just, to me, it's just the easiest way to clarify communication is be willing to repeat yourself without being like, oh, I have to, like,
Yeah.
that's your ego. Chill out, you know, like, it's not that big of a deal. Just say it again.
I think just as a society in general, we could get better at that because I know I'm not great at that just with like my fiance. Like I'm just a little too like, oh, I just said that. And like, well, and then, but if you had done that, I would have been like, oh, well, of course I can repeat myself because that, but like just that general like understanding and willingness to like let someone have that second round.
Yeah.
Like I think it should be a universal thing.
think
And then
that's
you
fair.
don't have to go around asking people to do shit specifically for you.
When I think the thing too is it's like, I will be self-aware enough to admit, like, sometimes it's the hearing loss and sometimes I am just not listening.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it is just like I've actively chosen not to listen. So
And I
it's like,
imagine it's easier to do that too,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
have to work so much harder to get to that listening kind of place.
yes.
So
And
it's
it's
easier
like,
to just
I turn my
opt
brain
out.
off a little bit
Yeah.
and like, well, and I feel like a lot of times too, it is so hard for me to like actively be listening that like I'll be listening passively and information will wash over me. Like the best example I could give is I was hanging out with my friend in San Diego and she was like getting coffee and getting ready to go to school while I was also doing work. And so I was listening to her, but I was also kind of doing work. And she was like, yeah, and my tarot cards are out if you want to pull one. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah. And I kind of like passively listened to that, but I like was in the middle of something else, so I wasn't super invested in what she was saying. And I remember later in the day, I was walking down the street and I saw a sign for like psychic tarot readings. I was like, ah, shit, yeah, she wanted me to do that. And I like it's like I'm processing it in
They're
real
putting,
time.
like Easter eggs for
Yes.
later, like planting seeds for
Yes.
future
When
thoughts.
I will say it's like I also have ADHD, so
Yeah.
like I feel like that does not help with the hearing loss at all because I just
ADHD is a
don't have,
comorbidity for anything. I feel like
Yeah.
is tough. Like because anything you have to take medication for, ADHD is tough. Anything you have to like try to remember things for, do anything different. Like yeah, that's a lot. So with children, I know you were a teacher
Yes.
or were a
Yes.
teacher, right?
So
Still
basically,
some?
I don't currently still teach. I occasionally will substitute
Yeah.
when I feel like, you know, just doing something extra with the day. But with kids, yes, it was funny because like I kind of would just lead with like, hey, I'm hard of hearing.
Yeah.
Like I would let them know immediately, and like it was fun. It was funny because like sometimes they would make jokes about it. Or I'm like this one kid in particular I remember was like, every single time I would come over would want me to take out my hearing aids because I also nannied. So it was like
Yeah.
kids were always fascinated by the hearing aids.
Yeah.
Because it's like almost, it's like world building.
Yeah.
It's like an accessory they've never seen before.
Right. It's like a superpower in a little thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like
Super
that was
hearing.
like that, or they would want to get close. Like a lot of times they would want to put their ear next to the back of my head to like hear the like,
Yeah, yeah.
rustling because they thought it was really cool. But I think it's like kids with the hearing aids, with like my tattoos, like anything that's not like their parents or not something that they've
Yeah.
typically seen. It's like, whoa! And like now that I do like kind of bright colored hair.
I was about to say, I feel like tattoos and hearing aids are not the most loud part of you at all.
Okay, valid.
Have you seen how you dress?
That's true. That's true. When it's funny too, because it's like, I think of when I tour, specifically when I go to like more conservative parts of the country.
Yeah.
Kids will like be gravitate toward me because I probably look like, you know, like Lazy Town or another cartoon kids show thing came to life.
Or like the person who's like friendly to them at a birthday party or something. Like someone, not clown, performer.
Yeah, no, I
fun, sparkly performer.
Exactly. I look like a costume character almost.
Yeah, like you're gonna do face painting for somebody. You know?
Yes, exactly. And so it's like, it's always fun because I like see like little you know, toddlers especially like kind of like walking towards me with their hands outreached, and I'm just like, hi, you know, like I'll wave because I'm not rude. I'm not gonna act like I don't see you. But it's like the parents I feel like are always like, get the hell back over here. Like, what are you doing over there with that freak? But no, with kids, I feel like kids are really patient and good with it more than adults.
I think if you're upfront with them about it, that's the biggest thing. Is they can really like. They'll ask sometimes it's kind of brutal questions, but it's in order to get to an actual answer so they understand it better.
Yes.
Like you know, kids will be like, "Why do you look like that?" I'm like, "Well, ouch." But Marfan syndrome, you know, it's like you like I know why you're asking that, and it's not to hurt my feelings, but like it is hurting my feelings. But like I understand why. Yeah, it's the innocence of like desiring knowledge versus like trying to like other you from what they're used to, you know?
Yeah. And I think of like, I will say when I've taught music after school, there was one girl in particular I remember who like so she bullied another girl in the class for being bigger, which is the shit I hated because I'm plus size myself. And so one time I kind of like, I had to confiscate. It's funny because this is K through 2.
Yeah.
I had to confiscate a second grader's cell phone because they were like cyberbullying their peer on Snapchat.
Where's this world going?
Which is like, yeah, there's that sentence is like, yeah, that sentence is crazy. But she started being mean. She started trying to like get a reaction out of me because I took her device away. And so she goes, "Miss Jamie, are you pregnant?" Because I'm like bigger. And I go, "No, I'm pregnant. I just like to eat." I said, "No, I'm not pregnant. I just like to eat." And then I like shot a wink at the girl that she had been bullying.
Yeah.
And just the way that I saw the girl that she had been bullying just like light up and experience joy, I was like, I'll take a million more, you know, mean fat comments. But that's the thing is, it's like, I'd say this is less about disability, more about being a comedian. I'm grateful for my experience being a comedian, working with kids, because I was able to, like, if somebody said something really brutal and horrible like that, like when you said, "Why do you look like that?" I was always able to just like hit them back with another like, "No, I just like to eat," and then like keep it moving, because it's like,
don't let them like get a chink in your armor, you know. Like you can kind of just keep moving.
Yeah, because I think like kids will say brutal things unintentionally.
Yeah.
But then like mean girl kids will say brutal things because they're also trying to bully you.
Because they learned from their parents.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I would say that was the one thing about teaching after school that I do not miss. Is like I saw some of the most like mean girl stuff I've ever seen, and I was just like, oh my goodness. It's like, I didn't think it could get worse than when I was in school, but it's like it's just ramped up.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm really grateful for, I think a lot of the parents that I would, you know, the parents of the kids I would work with, they were always really quick to like, I'd be like, "Hey, this happened," and they would discipline, they would like, you know, get involved and try to like help with the situation. Because I know like I had other teaching artists I work with whose parents just like, they were putting their kid in after school so that they didn't have to pick them up till 6 p.m. and they did not give a single shit about any of this. They're basically just like, "Watch my kid until I can pick it." Like, I'm not getting involved.
Yeah, let him destroy your space instead of mine.
Yes,
for
exactly.
A little bit.
And it's just not fun to deal with that. But I was really, I'd say like with the hearing, there was a lot of jokes that were cracked about it sometimes. Like I remember one time it's like, there was a time, this is K through 2, and I was trying to get everybody ready to sing the song because we were practicing for the recital. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what I would do is I would just stand there and wait if they're being too noisy, and I'd be like volume down, and this kid just goes, "Yeah, Miss Jamie's deaf, and you're being too loud for her. Means you need to shut up." It's like a kindergartner, and I was like,
which like
that's
kinda,
honestly a bar.
Yeah,
like if you're being so loud that Miss Jamie needs you to be quiet, you're being too loud because she's deaf. I was like, that is the funniest thing
The
I've
kid
ever
was
heard in
just
my
like
life.
fighting on your behalf too.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, like you guys have so much more wiggle room to be loud, and you're still abusing it. Like,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
dare
yeah.
you?
That's what, I mean, that was when I was like, it's a comment on my hearing, but it's also like the most amazing,
Yeah.
In defense of like, if you're being too loud for her, you're really being too loud.
Yeah.
Okay, like we need to get this done, and yeah, I just loved stuff like I mean, I heard a lot of like they would say a lot of crazy things.
Yeah.
I remember like this again. I keep ADHD, keep saying unrelated things, but like one of the other the only other white teaching artists they kept shipping us being together.
Yeah.
They wanted me and the other white teaching artist who was like actively married to somebody to like they're like, why don't you date the other white teaching? I was like, and it was just funny to me because I'm like, there's like 10 teaching artists, so
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, like they're like you two go together.
It's like you match in the set.
Yeah, you guys come on, like, and that was just like very funny to me because like he was telling me how like basically is like I think that like all because I taught K through 2 and he taught K through 2 on opposite days, and I was
Yeah.
like, all the kindergarten through second graders are conspiring to make this happen. I was like, this is so funny to me, but like I yeah, with kids, I mean, part of why I've always loved working with kids as like a day job or as like a like outside a comedy job is just like I think it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And kids are even when they're being little stinkers, it just gives
Little Stingers is a really nice way to put it.
yeah, but it's like even when they're being little stinkers, they have such like an optimism and a like levity to how they approach life
Yeah.
that is such a 180 from the comedians that we typically
For
are
sure.
surrounded by
For sure.
every time we're performing and doing shows.
That's
yeah.
why I'm always trying to get comedians to come do Marfan camp with me, because I'm like, I need you to just wipe your feelings about the world for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
because these kids sometimes say the funniest things I've ever heard. Like, I was talking to one of the other counselors who works the whole summer at this disability camp. So they have like different camps come in throughout the summer. And they had one where they had like a color war thing. It was the burn victim kids versus the asthma kids. And apparently the burn victim kids were like going over and like pretending to choke at the asthma kids, and then the asthma kids in return would point at fire hydrants and yell scoreboard.
I love
And this is all stuff they thought of.
love-
And like you can't as a chaperone who's like able-bodied be like, no, don't do that, because they're just like trash talking
Yeah,
in
they're
the way they know
trash-talking,
how.
yeah.
And like
Oh,
no
man.
one's crying, they're like, it's just a part of their life that they're used to like having to. It's so crazy how much more fun they can have with tragedy than we can. You know what I mean? Like,
because they lived it, and it's like, I mean, actually I realized Lord drop. So before I found out that I had the hearing loss that I had, I was a camp counselor at a summer camp in Lake Hughes, California, that is specifically for children with life-threatening and chronic conditions.
Yeah.
So we had like every 2 weeks we would have a new group of campers.
Yeah.
We did like special week was like I think it might have included Marfan, but it was like anything that would like limit your mobility.
Yeah.
We had a week for kids with kidney disease. We had a week for kids with Crohn's and colitis. It was just basically anybody who couldn't do a typical summer camp
it's
experience
the same
because of
with
their
mine,
condition.
They
Yeah,
just kinda
and
come through.
I literally still think about this girl to this day, and her name is like on a card that she signed for me somewhere in my house, and I don't remember her first name, but it was like for special week I got paired with the teenagers. So I was with like 16 to 18-year-olds, and basically I had a girl who was in a wheelchair, and I think she's like paralyzed from the waist down, and she wanted to do the zip line, and I double triple checked with the zip line person, like, hey,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure she can do this.
Yeah.
Like, like I know that typically it requires this and this. Like, please just check for me and make sure. She's like, oh yeah, she's good, she's good. We get there, and you have to climb a ladder to get onto the zip line, and so she's like, yeah, sorry, she can't. And I was like, so pissed because I was like, the whole point of this camp is for them to not be excluded from doing anything they want to do.
Yeah.
And so we ended up going to like. There's this magic show that was for like the little kids. That was
Yeah.
the only other activity we could go to that still had space available. And at the magic show, I was just trying to like crack jokes about how corny it was and like make light of it to kind of cheer her up because she didn't get to do the things she actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we had to do like, it's summer camp, so we do like the rose and the thorn of the day. And she was like, my thorn was I didn't get to do the zip line, but my rose was that I had a really fun time at the magic thing with Jamie. And so it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I do think it's like, to me, the kids who have been through these, huge life experiences, they have just like an optimism and a perseverance that like I think a lot of comedians could use to
Well,
be around
a
and
lack
experience.
of entitlement to a good day too.
Yes.
Like their default is not like, oh, I'm gonna feel fine today. Like their default is like, oh, well, I might have one of these 3 things I have to deal with
Yes.
today. So like any day that they don't have to spend the entire day like dealing with some negative aspect of their disability, like I imagine it's probably a good day.
Yes,
like
I would
you're
imagine too.
working from like you have a lower bar for what is a good day. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like with your relationship with music specifically, does that change at all? Like your like hearing loss, like what? How does that impact music?
So I feel like it's like, I mean, it does make me nervous just as far as like I've kind of built my whole career around like making music, and
Yeah.
they told me that I'm going to be deaf by the time I'm 50, which is like
So it is
getting
degenerative.
closer. Yeah, it's
Okay.
I feel like it's like almost like a ticking time bomb
Yeah.
feeling. But
Eventually, you know all the
Yeah.
songs by heart, so you just
I'm
keep
like,
I
that's
hope
my
I hope I'm
hope.
hitting the notes.
That's my hope. When I feel like it's like, I think if anything, like I remember back in college and also like in some of my hate comments on the internet, sometimes like I mean, I have a good sounding voice and good tonality in general, but sometimes my pitch can be a little off. And so that's why it's like, for me, I really have to almost like feel what it feels like to hit that note and like
Yeah.
listen back in post and make sure that I'm like hitting the notes right. Cause
Yeah.
it's like, I even remember like specifically, like, I don't know, do you know Stephen Sondheim type music or?
Yeah.
So Sondheim is like, if you're watching, so if you're watching and you're not as familiar, like, yeah, his stuff is very kind of like, I call it like crunchy, and the tonality is like, and it goes all over the place musically. But it's hard. It's hard music to sing and to learn. And I remember being in college and like I had to do a song from Sweeney Todd with like, actually they cast me opposite my nemesis, and so we're in the rehearsal room trying to learn the notes for this. And I just remember him going, what's wrong with you, Jamie? Why can't you get it? And then it's like 3 years later, I find out I have hearing loss, and I'm like, oh, this is like, it's a thing where it's like, I have really good instincts around songwriting, and I do have good tone to my voice, but pitch, I have to really like check in with myself and kind of like, I almost have to like feel what it feels like in my body to hit the note right, or I will be a half step above or below at any time, which it can sometimes be fun for comedy, because I almost like, I pull this trick on people where I do try to, at the beginning of my set, I try to do my songs that are less musically complicated and seem like I might be bad at singing. And then I try to end with a song that like shows off that like, oh shit, she actually can in fact sing. And I do think, because it's degenerative, I think my hope is that like the training that I got in college and like post college will allow me to maintain the ability to like sing, even if I get to the point where I can't actually physically hear anymore.
Yeah. You'll find other ways to like kind of cope with that, and you'll know what it feels like in your chest enough, hopefully, to like trust that.
It's like, that's the hope, yes.
And I guess in comedy, like that is smart to leave yourself, like you're not opera singing right now where that's the only thing they're focused on. They're focused on the lyrics of your song and the overall presentation, so you can let like little things on the, you're not, if things fall by the wayside, you have that little cushion, which is that's really smart.
And I feel like it's like I continue to have just like the cockeyed optimism of like medicine continues to get more and more advanced. Like hopefully we get to a point where like, I have like, it's less than 20 years now to the deadline, but also like the deadline that they give you isn't always necessarily true. And I'm hoping that like maybe within this amount of time they'll develop a new device or they'll have something. And also part of it is like, by 50 would be like if I didn't have the hearing aids. If I use the hearing aids, if I use like hearing protection when I'm in loud environments as best I can, I should be able to maintain longer like my hearing. And I just try, for me, it's really just like I try to stay sharp with my like problem solving and communication skills, just because like it makes me worried about like early onset other things. Like, with your neurological stuff. If you're not able to hear and communicate, it can really like psych you
didn't
up.
even think about that. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
the lack of stimulation for one of those
Mm-hmm.
senses kind of being in like because I know those like recording rooms that they have like totally silent, and that if you're in there for like 10 minutes, you start to go a little crazy
Yes.
because
Yeah,
you're like
yeah.
your brain starts creating things for you to hear.
Yes, yes. No, that's and the thing is, it's like I mean, honestly, I remember when I've done hearing tests in the past, I've almost like there've been there was a time when I did the hearing test because I got my hearing checked and found out I was hard of hearing when I was in Scotland because I
Yeah.
couldn't understand what anybody was saying ever with the accents. I was like I was struggling in my master's program. Like I was doing a master's program and my friend was like, "I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I low key think you might be deaf, like because you like don't." Process things in a way that makes
Yeah.
sense and then yeah it turns out she was right and I
It
but
would
it-
have been a hilarious discovery if you weren't deaf and they were just Scottish.
yeah
Like
it
you're just like, well, you guys just talk in such a fucked up way that I couldn't possibly
how could
understand.
I possibly know what you're saying? But it's like, in the test room, I think I was trying to pass the test, and so I would
Yeah.
like to. And he was like, "Okay, I understand that this is scary, but I can tell you're trying to pass the test.
Yeah.
I need you to just not do anything unless you hear it."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Okay." And then yeah, I absolutely failed. Not failed, but like we found out things.
You won hearing loss as a condition.
I won hearing loss as a
Yay,
condition.
Here you go. Free diagnosis. Not free, but I mean maybe it's
Yeah.
Scotland.
It makes me think of like with my ADHD test. I like passed the test for ADHD. I found that out like 2 years ago, and I remember I went to my friends. I was like, "Oh yeah, you guys like I've officially been diagnosed with ADHD." They're like, "Bitch, we fucking know. Like
Yeah.
you are the most textbook ADHD person I've ever met in my." I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't know. I am high functioning with it." Except for the time management. I was
Yeah.
actually literally late today, so that's
It's okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're allowed.
I've just learned that like my best friend, what'd she say? She was like, your two worst qualities are your time management and your phone addiction. And if we could just get the phone addiction a little bit more under control, I could probably deal with the time management.
Yeah.
She's just like, I could learn to accept that I have to tell you to be somewhere 20 minutes before you actually have to be there so you'll be there on time. But the phone addiction, that's the part where I'm like about to crash
we all
out.
addicted to our phones.
You'd say that and you'd think that, but I would give you a run for your money. I promise you.
Okay. All
I
right.
promise you.
Don't open Jamie's screen time.
Yeah,
you
it's
can be afraid.
Yeah, what I think is also like my hearing aids are Bluetooth, so it's like AirPods for deaf people.
Dude, if I was hard of hearing in high school, I would not have listened to a moment of a class. Oh my God, having access to like a Bluetooth device in your ear that you can just tune out of whatever you feel like.
I'm just listening to podcasts. I'm listening to guided meditations. The thing is, it's funny is I've had experiences in the past few years where comedians didn't realize that I was deaf, and they found out later. Like I was on the road with Lisa Laird. We were in Texas and we're in the car, and I keep looking at her when she's talking, and I'm like swerving a bit. And so she was like, "Oh shit, like she's deaf and she doesn't know. Like I'm going to have to prepare myself to tell her. Like how am I going to tell my friend in her 30s that she's deaf?"
Yeah.
And we get to the venue and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, like are you still hard of hearing? Like did you get that worked out?" And she goes, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, Lisa, like I'm she's like, "You know?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I've been mentally preparing myself for the past 3 hours of the drive on how I was going to tell you." I was like, "No, I know."
I like that she was gonna do it respectfully and like in the right kind of way. You know, she was really prepping for it.
Yeah, she was like, "I'm not going to do it before the show."
It's also a wild thing for the venue person to be like, "They fixed that shit yet? They fix your shit yet?"
I don't know if he said fix. I think he might have just been like, "Are you
Get that
still
taken care
dealing
of?
with
Is
that?"
still, yeah,
Still dealing with that, I guess.
My high
is still.
school basketball, like I wasn't on the basketball team at any point in high school, but the coach for the basketball team, every time I'd go away for a surgery and come back, he'd be like, "They fix you yet?" Like I was like, that's not how genetic
works.
connective tissue disorders work. Like
They get you all fixed up yet?
yeah, they replace all your DNA yet with different people's DNA.
That's so funny. No, I mean that's it. It makes me think of like my aunt with like anytime I feel like it's like people will just bring up like your weakest points or the things you're having the most anxiety about. They're like, "Did you get that thing or not?
Like, hey,
how's your love life?" No,
hey,
I'm like,
is your relationship still falling apart? Or
oh my God, no, literally. So this is before I got divorced.
Yeah.
My freaking like I don't know the actual relation. It's my dad's cousin's husband.
Uh-huh.
Approached me at like a family Thanksgiving and is like, how's the marriage going? I remember when you were staying with us about to get divorced, like out loud in front of the whole. I'm like, my brother in Christ, why would you why would you blow up my spot like that?
He thought it recovered after that point?
Yeah, no.
When you were staying with them in someone else's house? That's
no, bro, we're getting divorced.
Yeah, like
we're getting divorced.
It's happening. Like, do you see him anywhere here? No, probably divorced.
Probably divorced, dude. But yeah, that was crazy. I feel like, I mean, I grew up
being
in
hard
Indiana.
of hearing affect like arguments at all?
Yeah, well, because when in arguments or arguments and sex talk both negatively affected. Because if somebody says something like, well, I just wish you would da 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 da, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. They're like, oh, forget it, and I'm like, no, like I'm trying to, like, it can make things escalate unintentionally, and then in the context of hooking up, people, if they're trying to like talk sweet, like, yeah, baby, did it, and I'm like, what?
I can't hear you. Say it with your chest.
It's like nothing, especially, and I'm not trying to, no, I am going to generalize, especially cis men, nothing emasculates them more than having to stand on whatever like sex talk thing they said. They don't want to. They don't want to. They're like, actually, I'm flaccid now. Get out of my house. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you're like, I can't hear that. You do have to, like, you have to say it with your chest a little bit.
Text it to me.
And I get that it's like, I do get that it's like, there's a certain element of dirty talk that's improvisational.
Yeah.
So that's embarrassing to have to repeat.
It's like, that just left my mouth, and I hated that it did. But
now
I don't want to say it again.
Say it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. But then it's like, yeah, so I think those two things are like on flip sides, situations that can create uncomfortability and like tension with people.
Yeah.
In a way that's like, just text it to me. Just you hold up the phone.
Do you raise your voice more easily in like a heated discussion? Like, do you find yourself getting called out for that a lot? Or
so I actually have been told I'm one of the quietest deaf people ever. Like literally, I've
should get a plaque for
Victoria, that. Yeah, you can put a name card right here after in the edit. Yeah. No, Victoria, like Joe, the bartender here at Laugh Factory where we're filming. I think several people have been like, I'm always surprised by how soft spoken you are. But I do think that like I'm working on being louder because I'm pretty loud on stage. I think that me being quiet conversationally is more of a trauma response from being in an emotionally abusive relationship than a hearing loss thing.
And being a woman in this society.
And being a woman in this society. And I think also like, I mean, before I got my hearing aids and when I have my hearing aids out, I will unintentionally talk really fucking loud because I don't realize how loud I'm being. So I think I almost like overcorrected and I talk really soft. So it's like, if I raise my voice, I'm hot. Like I would say like in an argument, I'm like plateau, calm. And then once I'm hot, it's like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have raised my, like, I feel like I'll have these little spurts of like getting, and then I'll almost catch myself and be like, whoa, sorry, that was a little bit too much. And I think that's with any emotion. Like when I'm sad, I'll be like I was in therapy yesterday actually. And I remember I broke down crying to my therapist, and then I had this out-of-body moment where I was like, oh, my God, I'm crying so much. And I was just like, yeah, so, like, I, like, literally, like,
get
pulled
it together. This is therapy. This isn't therapy.
Whereas my therapist probably sitting there like, yes, finally, we got her. Yes. Not even one. Yeah, I'd say broke her, but it's like also, I think I am very much my father's daughter in that, like, my dad was always, when I was growing up, I was a very sensitive kid, and he was always like, literally, like, why are you crying over that? It's not a big deal. And so I think, like, anytime I'm crying or anytime I raise my voice, I will go there. Like, I'll go to those places. But I think pretty quickly, I hear my dad's voice in my head being like, quit making a mountain out of a molehill. And I just go, oh, yeah. So
I get that.
I've been feeling that. Like, I feel like I wish that my therapist could send me a screen recording of like the like ugly cry, and then I just wish I could see the moment where I heard my dad's voice and went, and so yeah, I've been thinking about a lot of that recently. Like I just snapped. So yeah, that's what's been going on with me.
Damn.
Yeah. This is less about disability and more about.
No, I like it. We're moving in a very organic direction. I like it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
because
bet it's
it affects every
comorbidities.
facet of
Yeah.
your life. Like that's why I like kind of letting this podcast
Yeah.
go kind of wherever. Going back to the degenerative nature of it. So when you first found out about it, did you know it was degenerative then, or
I did, yeah. They told me
Okay.
it was inner ear loss. And so
Yeah.
basically it's the same way that like people start to lose their hearing as they age. Mine just started earlier and it's hereditary. And it's funny because my parents were like, "Well, we don't know how you got that. Nobody in our family has that." And then my mom brought it up to her dad and he's like, "Oh yeah, my like uncle had that."
Oh yeah, no, just it's just
And I'm like,
it's the same with a lot of people I know. They're like, "Oh, well, no, we don't have any family history of Marfan syndrome. We just every man in our family for the last 80 years has died of mysterious heart complications."
and
Like,
he was like, "That's it."
clearly
y'all.
that's what
Like,
it was. Like, it's like, no, we don't have Marfan syndrome. We just die suddenly young. And I'm like, oh, it's almost like that's undiagnosed Marfan syndrome. Like,
yeah, that's kind of what that sounds like. I mean, and that's the thing is, it's like, I don't, I don't like blame my parents.
No.
I do think as well, to be entirely honest, like, I think that as a kid, I think I probably always, I don't think I realized what was going on with me, but I
Yeah.
think I've always been somebody who like, the way I coped with like not necessarily knowing what was going on
Yeah.
was just like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out. Like I
Yeah.
think that there are moments where like I would not fully get the plot and I would just like kind of fill in the blanks for myself and figure
Yeah.
it out. And I even think of like, I mean, when my parents say like, well, Jamie, like, how could you be hard of hearing? Or like we thought it was just a misunderstanding because like you're the kind of person who like you would be struggling with your homework and would be like, okay, Jamie, let us help you. Like it's almost time for bed. Like, and you'd be like, no, I'm gonna figure it out myself. And like, yeah, that's definitely who I was as a kid. So I
Yeah.
think it's like it would make sense why I would go so long undiagnosed because like I really struggle to admit when I need help.
Yeah, and you don't want to like admit that there's something inherently unchangeably like that you're gonna have to
Defective. What is, like-
continue. Not even
yeah,
defective,
and
but
not
like
defective,
different.
yeah.
You have a different ability of
Yeah.
hearing than other people, and so
Yeah.
like you're gonna have to continually adapt to that in
Yes.
every sound-based situation for the rest of our lives. Which
And
is
when I say defective, I say that about my because I think it's like I like on a larger level struggled with like as a young person feeling like I didn't belong anywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's like I think that there's almost this fear of like, oh, here's this additional thing that like makes me other
Yeah.
and like separate from my peers. I don't want that to be true. So it's like I think I like for a very long time avoided it being an issue. It really took
Yeah.
me going to grad school and like I was going to not succeed in my classes because I couldn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think out of all the like guests that I've had on the podcast so far, your use of like that word defective, like, and we don't like as disabled people to use terminology like that, but I think yours, it doesn't land as hard because yours is such a like, this is the expected use of one of your senses, and here's how yours doesn't quite meet that level of use. So like, it is one thing being less capable as like a part. It's like cerebral
Yeah.
palsy. It's much more complicated. There's like
Yeah.
facets of it that are like.
And I think it's like, and I think there's a word that slipped out of my mouth, but it was like something that like in the context of like, I'm going to theater school
Yeah.
in Scotland on a scholarship
Yeah.
for musical theater. It requires me to be able to hear
Yeah.
and comprehend and like hold pitch and do all these things. And I'm sitting there in my classes with my coursework and I'm like, what is wrong? Like, you start to take it personally.
It's like
Like,
trying
what
to
is
swim
wrong
with
with
weighted
me?
ankle,
Yeah.
weights on.
It's like, I was given this opportunity. I feel like I'm fucking it up. What's
Yeah.
going on? And then you kind of go see this specialist and it's like, oh, like I actually, like, it's not like something with my brain. It's actually, and the thing is really is something that like can be maintained and like helped with hearing aids.
And it's something I'm
It was-
allowed to struggle with too.
Yes,
It's like, because I think that
exactly.
like lack of, I think the diagnosis, the big freeing thing is like, oh, I have a thing that I can like explain all these hardships that I've been having that I've been kind of just dealing with myself. I know so many people who that's their kind of disability journey. Like for me, I got F's in handwriting every year, and that's just bullying at this point. Now
Yeah,
that I know what I know about
no.
myself, I'm like, oh, the guy with the connective tissue disorder can't write 4-page essays neatly. Oh, crazy. So it's like this consistent like, oh, you're not meeting these marks. well, that just must mean you're not trying hard enough. You didn't do your cursive practice or whatever.
Yeah,
They love
yeah.
to try to find every other route to explain why this is the case before they get to disability. But like
Yeah.
it being a diagnosis is so much less like it's less hard on the kid, because you're taking the aspects that they're struggling with right now, and you're taking it off their shoulders and putting it on this like term that they now have to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
define this whole set of things that they're dealing with.
And I think it's like, I'm grateful for the way we've progressed as a society that like more people are getting diagnoses earlier on.
Yeah.
Because like I look back like, yeah, maybe it would not have been beneficial for me to be medicated for ADHD. Maybe like getting my hearing aids that early couldn't have saved more of my hearing, but I think it could have on a like social, emotional, how I see myself, self-worth, self-esteem level
Yeah.
would have really like created a different, more well-adjusted person for me to have explanations as to why I am the way I am instead
Yeah.
of feeling like there's something inherently wrong with me for so many years of my life. And then finding out as an adult like, oh no, I do have these things that make me experience the world differently from a different person in the room.
Yeah, and like I think the earlier you get diagnosed with something like this, the more coping strategies are like, you when you're a young person, you're growing up, you're building your life to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And if you're diagnosed later in life, you have to wipe the entire way you've lived your life up until that point and rebuild how you live your life with this new disability in mind versus if you're diagnosed as a young kid, you build the first time with that disability in mind. You don't set these expectations for yourself that you can't physically meet or like
Yes.
like basketball as a kid for me was like everyone in the world was like, why don't you play basketball? And so eventually I was like, all right, fine,
I'll give it a
I'll
shot.
play
Yeah.
basketball. And I was starting to get good right before I was diagnosed with Marfan syndrome, and I was just starting to like accept the fact that that was going to be my life. I was going to be a basketball guy. That was going to be it. And then all of a sudden like my whole world came collapsing down, even though I didn't care about basketball before that. It was such a, well, like I guess might as well. And then the moment I
Yeah.
gave into it, it was like, oh, and all that's gone. And I'm
Yeah,
like, all right,
that's
and
not
it
something
made me
you can do.
depressed about a
Ah.
thing that I didn't really care about until enough people told me I should. And so just if I had known that earlier, I could have had that like, well, I can't play basketball because
Because
I have
this is
Marfan
this.
syndrome.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
here's the things I do instead, because I was already doing like filmmaking and, a magician and all that kind of shit.
Yeah,
But like I
yeah.
was also doing basketball to appease like the general public. And so you
That
get
we're
that.
like, you're 7 feet tall. You
Yeah.
need to do basketball. Yeah.
So yeah, the earlier the better. You just don't have to deal with like the reset moment that comes
Yeah.
with a lot of diagnosis.
Yeah, and I do think it's one of those things where it's like I have mixed feelings about it because it's like I do think I probably wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing or making the art that I'm
True.
making if I hadn't had the experiences I had. Because I do feel like kind of like a through line in how I approach comedy and how I approach life is that like, and it's ironic because I do struggle to understand people because of my condition.
Yeah.
But I've always felt like I just want to be understood.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately, like, that pursuit was from a place of not understanding myself, whereas, like, I'm understanding myself more as an adult because I have these diagnoses, because I
Yeah.
have this information.
More terminology to kind of just put to write on the same things that were already there.
Yeah, and it's like, I think, so, like, I apply this to my condition as well as to, like, mental health stuff and everything. It's like, the diagnoses don't have to be, like, an excuse or like a setback or like I'm not even gonna try to do music anymore because I'm gonna lose my hearing. I'm not. It's like
Yeah.
no. It's like how can I approach these things that I love to do differently or like how okay I have ADHD so I have horrible time management. How can I create systems and schedules in my day so I don't disrespect the time of people I care about and so
Yeah.
that I don't make myself crazy because my brain works differently.
Yeah.
And it's like I think it's cool to have these diagnoses because they give you the opportunity to like accept yourself and approach life in a way that works for you.
Yeah. And you can be like proud of a thing that has made you miserable almost. It's like you can
yeah.
like put a name on it, dress it up real pretty and be like, this
Yeah.
isn't just my legs hurt all the time. This is Marfan syndrome. You know,
Yeah.
like it gives it a name that makes it something other than just like hardship for you.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is like with learning ASL, I'm still like a long ways off. We've only learned about 100 words.
Nice.
And you know, it's a whole process to like get further than that, but like ASL translates so well for what I'm passionate about. It's such an expressive language.
Yeah.
Like it's very funny as like a former theater kid, like current
Mm-hmm.
musical comedian, to have this disability that's forced me to learn a language that's like entirely in the
Yeah.
expressions, the like moving your hands and using the space. Like it's such a theatrical language.
You're gonna see a bunch of
And
stand-up comics in the ASL
yeah,
classes next year.
yeah, and it's like one thing is the class is taught by my friend Aaron, who is an ASL interpreter and does stand-up comedy, and then Kadeem, who is the other student in the class, is also a comedian here in Chicago. And so
Nice.
yeah, we just like a little crew of because Kadeem found out he was losing his hearing within the past couple years.
Wow.
So it's like yeah, we all not lose it, but it's like that he has hearing loss.
Yeah, yeah.
And wears hearing aids as well now too. And so it's like it's kind of fun that we have this little crew, and then it's like yeah, when I run into Kadeem at shows or when I run into Aaron at shows, we can like practice what we've been learning.
Nice.
And I will say though, I literally said on Monday that I've not been practicing as much as I should, and so that's something that I'm saying for myself and for the viewers
No
that I am
stolen
gonna.
ASL valor. Over
I'm
here,
going
Jamie,
to.
all
I'm
right?
gonna practice. Literally after we finish this, when the next guest comes, I'm gonna get to work.
We'll
at
cut
practicing.
to Jamie doing ASL in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we'll have you interpret the next podcast. Stand off to the
That's-
side. No pressure.
The words that I can do, I could at least I could finger spell.
No pressure. You have to provide for your people who are watching this. We're not putting any actual captions. It's just Jamie.
When it's funny because I think those of you who are watching, I do have a lot of like lofty ways of saying things.
Yeah.
And so it's been very funny because Aaron's always like looking at me trying to like think. Aaron's like, Jamie, just as simply as possible. Just say it as simply as possible. And he's like, if you don't know how to say it, finger spell it. But I guarantee, like, just say it simply as possible is the solution
Yeah.
to the look I'm seeing on your face trying to figure out how to say what you want to say. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I think, and that's kind of been fun too, is that ASL is forcing me to like, sometimes we got to simplify.
Yeah.
We got to just,
That is, yeah, you're like learning a new language, so you're just trying to get the basics across as efficiently as you can.
yeah.
That makes sense, yeah. Very cool. Hell yeah, well, I think this has been really fun. Do you have anything else you would want to say to someone who's hard of hearing? I know you've said a few things, but like...
Oh, anything I want to say? I think that, our disability is a really cool one. I think it makes us, the other senses we have, we're able to be more perceptive of the world around us. And just, I do want to like redact earlier when I said defective, I think I was talking through like my experience of learning that I had this disability. But if anything, I think being hard of hearing is one of the coolest things about me. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of. And it's made, the way that I approach, my life and my art really unique and fun.
Yeah.
And I think that, you sometimes are going to feel frustrated with the way that people condescend you when you need repetition or you need assistance, but take up that space, ask for that assistance. You have a right to clear communication from people. So demand it. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to demand it as well. So.
Hell yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you guys on the next episode.